Well, that record didn't last long. It felt like only last week or so I reviewed the, at the time, world's smallest quadcopter, the DHD D1, and now the record has already been broken. Heck, if you want to get technical, the 502 maybe never even held a title, since I think both crafts became available at approximately the same time. So, who's this new champion? As any legend, it has many names. The Floureon FX-10, the DHD D1, which is what my box says. I even saw Cheerson plans to rebrand it as the CX-STARS. Despite the different brandings and model numbers, every indication seemed to point towards them all being the exact same product, with the possible exception of different packaging and or colors available. So we know it's small, but is it any good? If you haven't watched my review of the DHD D1, the takeaway was that despite a few cosmetic compromises for sake of size, it turned out to be a surprisingly fun and competent flyer, seemingly unhindered by its miniature size. Does the DHD D1 deliver the same way, or have the size constraints left a more noticeable impact on its performance? Welcome to this review of the D1 Nano, or is it Pico now, quadcopter from DHD RC. Since I've already shown a size comparison, I'll try not to dwell too long on the smallness of the DHD D1. Just know that it's hard to properly convey the size of something in a video like this. I too had seen it on pictures beforehand, but was still both surprised and amazed when I saw it first person. Trying to look past the size wow factor, the D1 is quite boring looking. It basically looks like a shrunk down Cheerson CX-10. One detail to note is the external charging connector, a decision probably taken in order to save on size versus having a more traditional internal port. To accommodate this, the on-off switch has also been moved to the right side of the craft. Another detail to note is the relative height of the body in relation to its size. It's almost a cube. As opposed to its perhaps foremost competitor, the DHD D502, the DHD D1 features 4 LEDs in 2 different colors, making night flights, at least indoors, a definite possibility. Inside of it, it allegedly carries an 80 mAh battery, as opposed to the DHD D502's 70. Those extra 10 mAh was apparently very well spent, or there is some power consumption optimization going on, cause with the D1 you get a full minute longer flights, totaling in a little over 4 minutes. The time to charge is still the same, somewhere between 20 and 25 minutes. If you're anything like me, you're tired of tiny transmitters crippling the potential of many a promising multirotor. The reason seems to be that manufacturers feel pressured to miniaturize the transmitters of nano aircrafts in order to save on package size, and by extension warehouse and shipping costs. Fortunately, the DHD D1 avoids this pitfall by instead making the transmitter house the quadcopter inside of it. This solution is not a first. There's recently been a wave of pocket quadcopters. For example, I reviewed the German product Jamara Pokey not too long ago, which all implement the transmitter as case idea in various ways and with varying success. Here, it's pulled off rather nicely. The operation is not terribly finicky, nothing gets squashed, and once the quadcopter is in place, it's pretty well protected. I also like that the function does not come at the cost of the transmitter's ergonomics. Sure, it isn't a proper size hobby style thing, but it's sufficient for you not to feel limited by it. I do have some reservations though. For one, the hatch feels a little delicate. Although it hasn't happened to me, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing broke off without much force. For another, I wish there'd be a way to store the included USB charging cable with the transmitter, similarly to how you store the quadcopter. The transmitter uses mode 2, takes 2 AAA batteries and has trims for pitch and roll. The trims buttons on the left don't do anything. You click the left stick in order to switch between modes and the right to perform flips. The transmitter can and will emit beeping noise to indicate it's powered on, have bound successfully to the aircraft, changed modes, or are expecting flip direction input. In flight is where the DHD D502 really shone. Does the DHD D1 deliver in the same way? The short answer is simply not really. While the D1 is a perfectly fine flyer, the experience of flying it somehow doesn't carry the same fun and excitement. There are 2 normal rates on the D1, 1 and 2, and there's not much difference between them. One is a bit faster than the other, but yaw is the same and they're both pretty dialed down, both in terms of pitch and yaw. The third, rate, is actually headless mode, where the aircraft remembers its original orientation so you don't have to keep track of your heading when flying. Returning viewers will know that I'm not particularly interested in this feature, but I did try it out and it seems to work fine, except the yaw becomes incredibly slow, the slowest I've ever seen on any multirotor. On a positive note, the D1 hovers nicely and flips even better. Very elegant and reliably. A word of caution though, while most multirotors lose or at best maintain altitude in a flip, the D1 seems calibrated, or maybe miscalibrated, in such a way as to actually gain altitude with every flip. Therefore, don't be hovering right below the ceiling when pressing that button, or you'll crash and burn. Speaking of crashing, I've done so quite a bit when trying to get the feel for the flight characteristics of the D1. It's just part of the process, and have noticed no ill effects from this. Therefore, my preliminary conclusion is that there is no reason to suspect quality or durability issues with it, like some people have reported with other Pico quadcopters. In summation, the DHD D1 is to me the tamer, more polished Pico quadcopter. This would be a suitable first quadcopter for someone, and a pretty neat one at that, with its petite size and carry-along quality. More seasoned flyers would probably find it a little dull, and should instead have a look at the wilder, more rough around the edges JXD 502. Regardless, it cannot be denied that technically the DHD D1 is a definite step up for Pico quadcopters. Over the JXD 502, it has improved LEDs, flight times and seemingly durability, all while pushing the envelope even further in terms of size. That is truly impressive. That was it for this time. If you enjoyed this review, please leave a like. Also consider subscribing to be notified of future videos just like this one. I'm trying to put out around one every week. There's thumbnails on the right which you can click in order to keep watching. Finally, don't hesitate to leave a comment if you have corrections, questions or something you want to share pertaining to this review. See you soon in another review. Bye!